Ethiopia, assisted through participatory management. These are points of discussion. As all you know, biodiversity is a variety and variability of plants, animals, and microbes and associated knowledge, which is expressed at different levels as a gene, species, and ecosystem level. As you know, Ethiopia is rich in biodiversity, and it was already said has 2 biodiversity spots out of 36 in the globe, and it is a member of 20 like-minded mega diverse countries in the world, and became a party to CBD in 1974. However, the conservation activity of Ethiopia began since 1976 as a plant genetic resources center of Ethiopia. Why is that? As many of you may understand, the altitudinal variation, the diversity in agroecology and soil different types, and more than 80 ethnic groups and their associated knowledge helped for that. And then simply to show you how diverse that the crop genetic resources that we have is a barley type. This is a 2-rowed one. When there is a rain, it slowly matures. If no rain, it matures very soon. The same is true for durum wheat. So this is a treasure for Ethiopia's. Why do we conserve biodiversity? You know, it is a food we eat, it's the water we drink because of the forest is already said, and the air we breathe, and everything is, and the medicine that we cure come from biodiversity. And it has got also indirect benefits like climate regulation, soil management, and others are among others like nutrient recycling because of thanks to fungi, bacteria, and others. So the life made possible to continue because of them. However, such benefits are being degraded due to various biodiversity drivers. So among others, even at the global level is the same, is true, and at the same time in my country, so change in the land use, Dr. Adabris already mentioned it, climate change. Even recently in this year, we have lost more than 2,000 livestock because of this drought in Borana, Oromia, and Somalia, and the northern part of the country. So the direct exploitation, pollution, and invasive alien species already it was shown for you. And the indirect ones are the population pressure is another, a consumption pattern that mostly people are depending on animal products and producing carbon dioxide. In some cases also weekend laws and institutional organizations problem, displacement and migrations are the problem. Then there should be a means to halt such types of drivers. Now in 2020, the leaders of the world pledged to reduce the impact of causing the loss of biodiversity and ecosystem degradation in 2002, but up until to minimize up until 2020, but it was failed. But the world of the leaders of the world again, they designed another strategy, termed as strategic action plan for biodiversity from 2011 to 2020. And then it was based on 5 major strategic goals and 20 targets. Among these are addressing the cause of biodiversity loss, reducing direct pressures, and improving biodiversity conservation, sustainable use, and others, and participatory conservation approach, and finally to enhance benefit sharing. But as a result of this, the globe as a whole, the countries, especially party to CBD, 196 countries took the action. It was, there were 20 achieved targets, but 80 were implemented in Ethiopia, and Ethiopia scored 56 out of the total targets. The global mean was 23, So relatively, Ethiopia performed it best as compared to the global. Still, we can say that globally, national targets are generally poorly aligned with the achieved biodiversity targets because of different causes: commitment gap, enforcement, no enforcement conditions, poor organization. In some cases, the pledged amount of the resource is not properly mobilized to the countries like CBD and UNEP. They were responsible to mobilize for its implementation on time. This was not made possible during that moment. In some cases, even if it is the targets, indicators, and the goals, and some others were not clearly understood by the actors. That was a major problem. And the change in focal points in respective sectors were the problem for that. Then what next? So the globe failed in acting against that of the drivers of biodiversity laws. So the question is, what is next? And then there is a vision, we call it the post-2020 global biodiversity vision. It says living in harmony with nature. So the Adam and Eve used to live in harmony with nature. That Dr. Adafris, thank you so much. You have shown us. So this is the vision that the globe it has, meaning that biodiversity is valued, conserved, and then ecosystem services are maintained, and we achieve the healthy planet by 2050. So that the planet benefits well all the people. Is it possible really? And then it will be made possible when we address the drivers of laws. The question is how we are going to address. So there is a term, we call it transformational change. So what does it mean, the transformational change? Individual decision to build a new social norms. So everybody should understand, it's not made by a single sector, by 2 or 3 sectors, but each individual should be concerned. So then we have to build new social norms, and there should be a legal change as a whole, not as a local level, throughout the global level that will be applicable by all countries and sectors across the world. Not only that, but also the financial flow, as per Article 20 of the CBD from developed countries to the developing countries. And the global financial and economic system should be also made built. And then we have to have very practical and strategic processes while we are designing this post-2020. And then if we are in a position to implement or take actions in this way, so we will be in a position to achieve the CBD goals, Sustainable Development Goals, the Paris Agreement, and other multilateral agreement systems. I will show you some of the practices that Ethiopia took in conserving, sustaining, and in benefit sharing as some of the success histories that we have. So Ethiopia has one of the oldest gene bank in Africa, and it was established in 1976. And then Ethiopia has already conserved more than 90,000 accessions of the 100 crop and horticultural plant species, which is the largest, 1/3 of the total Africa, the largest in its situ conservation aspect. While some of recalcitrants, which are not the orthodox seeds, also they are conserved in field gene banks. We have 5 field gene banks for root crops, spices, and others. We conserve it as more than 8,000. The same is true. We have also in situ conservation aspect by participating the community seed bank we have. This is also one of the, Ethiopia became the first and at the same time the model for the rest of the world and including Africa, which has been established in 1994. After a certain drought in 1985, then our farmers already fed the seed to be sown in the next year because of the drought. And then we took a measure and take a lesson from that. And currently we have 37 community seed banks and the conservation associations, where nearly about 7,000 conservator farmers are also just working with us. Of these, 34 species of different species are being conserved. So we are working not only the conservation aspect, but sustainable utilization. So we don't simply conserve and place in the gene bank or some other like community seed banks, but we also share these resources to the users. More than 247 accessions we have been distributed to the germplasm users, like the agricultural research institutes, the universities, and like the international organizations, IRLI and others. We did that, but 80% of this is consumed internally as a domestic condition. So this is what we are working with the community. This is what we call it, the community seed bank and participatory selection aspect of the best performer, I mean, having higher production and disease resistant species are being selected by the community. The best example we do have, what we are doing is that, you see, we give about 5 different varieties for a single farmer and then produce it and share for about 5 of his colleagues. And then in doing this, so we conserve among the community members, and at the same time, they become also beneficiary. The same is true as the forest and rangeland species, about 3,500 accessions, 576 forest species, a gene bank we have conserved, but we have also filled with gene banks of 22 field gene banks, where 752 plant species are conserved. And we have also 2 botanical gardens in Shashamane and Jimma. About 805 plant species are conserved there. Not only that, we do have in situ conservation, 27 in number, generally across the country, depending upon agroclimatic condition, you conserve 1,440 different woody species. We have biosphere reserves also 5. They are, we have assessed and investigated only 2 of them, where we have conserved more than 800 plant species. Not only conserving, but also we distribute for sustainable use for universities, researchers, hotels, regional, municipality, and the youth associations and the other. So these are the botanical gardens we have, and the herbarium that we have, about 6,000 plant specimens have been collected. The case community will be benefited. In a sense, participatory forest conservation is the best example. Malakosa community here in Gamugofa, we have a forest we are conserving. So people are not directly depending upon the forest, rather than we made another options. Beekeepers are there, and then the sheep fattening associations are there, and then they benefit from these other livelihood options rather than directly depending on the resources. Animal biodiversity conservation, we have about 44 different farm animal breeder associations like that we have. And the best example, for instance, the Boran, we have the special breeds of Sheko breeds. They are very important. In situ condition, we have conserved 95,000 different straws of semen. And that not only we have conserved also Kundudo feral horse. So one of the extinct or most endangered horses, and in Africa we have only in Namibia and Ethiopia. Namibia about 600 meters above sea level in Namibia desert. In Ethiopia, Kundudo about 3,800 meters above the sea level. Now we are conserving this also. So these are the different breeds that we have. The Ethiopian Boran and the Shako breeds, and then we have the Fogara. And the Shako breeds are very unique in a sense that they do have a special gene against the trypanosomiasis. You know, this is the disease, especially in the lowland area. So that is why we are conserving these ones. Through this conservation, communities being, many communities are being the beneficiary of the training, and as I said, so this is a Kundudo feral horse. In 2050, their number was nearly around 6 or 7, and currently it is more than 30. It is their number reached about 31, almost 33. So this is the Shako breed, and nearly about 2,000 around their number arose, came down about 4,000, and currently about 9,000 because of conservation approach we took.
You have 5 minutes.
Okay, I will. Yeah, thank you. So in the microbial biodiversity achievement, 1,164 microbial species have been conserved. This is among the leading in Africa. The fact that we conserve the biofertilizer species which are useful for fertilizer, for food, biocontrolling, and antibiotics, and things like that. I will give you some example. For instance, biofertilizer, rhizobium species, and Managasha biotech industry, by access and benefit sharing, we have given a permit for them. And not only that, as a food spirulina, we gave for NGO, they are producing a food, and this is best food for the COVID, approved by the Ethiopian Ministry of Health. So far, we have distributed more than 402 species. Even if also in participatory forest conservation approach, the best example for we have in the Kafa zone, Decha Warada. So what we did is that mushroom cultivation. So in mushroom cultivation, nearly around 100 people are becoming beneficiary rather than directly depending on the forest, along with the Denmark government, thanks to the Denmark government. So the last one is especially the achievement on the access and genetic resource access and benefit sharing. So Ethiopia has the proclamation number this prior to the Nagoya Protocol, which was approved by 2012. So Ethiopia became the model. Before the approval of the Nagoya Protocol, Ethiopia has this. And because of this fact, we have given 1,277 different permits for the user. 1,242 for research and 35 for commercial, which become one of the best in the world. The world. So the leading is the world. So the best example I will show you for the Docomo Oil Company. So we gave this plant type Osaris quadripartata, and it has perfumery in its nature. Many local people are not using it rather than the fence. So the people where its location is in the South Omo and the Boran area, people benefited more than 421,000 USD. Here we have the associations are 41, so direct beneficiary. So we had the opportunity while we are conserving the biodiversity. Policies we have, Ethiopia becoming signatory for it, Ethiopian government based on biodiversity-based economy, and then involvement of the local people and the community seed banks and the different associations, and the CRG and the green legacy are very important. Still, we have the gaps at that, the biodiversity assessment, the prospecting, because we need cooperatives and collaborative partners in order to do this. And data mobilizing, we have a limited molecular aspect. Rather, 100% we focus on the morphological aspect. And then effective biodiversity, mainstreaming and the commitment still is a gap and a limited awareness. And the lesson that we learn is that mainstreaming biodiversity issues into sectors is a means to integrate and at the same time to raise biodiversity awareness. And then involvement of the local people and the community is crucial for biodiversity conservation, as you observed from my presentations. And then the accountability, responsibility, and effective monitoring and evaluation means are very important for the national biodiversity strategy and action plan. My recommendations will be effective collaboration is required at national and international level with our partners. Inventory of the Ethiopian biodiversity is very crucial. awareness raising should be. At the same time, monitoring and evaluation on biodiversity is very crucial. The issue of, you see, most often people are talking about the climate change. So climate change issues should be discussed with biodiversity issues. If you are, we have to integrate it. This is when we are designing the post-2020 biodiversity framework, we have to have the SMART objectives, the goals, the indicators, and the missions. And there is a policy, there is a need for policy to share data in general. And thank you so much. And at the end, I will have questions of this sort. Maybe we'll discuss it later on. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Melissa Mario. You gave us a very insightful presentation and also on the work of your institute. As you have seen, there are a lot of things that are happening at the Biodiversity Institute of Ethiopia under Dr. Melissa's leadership. So we thank you for that. And also I hope these gaps will be addressed sooner than later through the support from our international partners and also the commitment by the government of Ethiopia. So the next presenter will be Mr. Yared Abera. He will be talking about meaningful youth engagement in environmental governance. If you recall from a keynote speech by the Swedish Deputy Ambassador, he talked about the importance of including young people in such discussions. So the organizers of this conference or dialogue have made a deliberate attempt to include young people in these discussions and also that their voice can be heard by all stakeholders. So Yared, you can come here. Yared is a young leader who is the founder of Youth Print, a youth focused organizations that's working on environment issues and also other socioeconomic development issues. So we need to hear his voice, and their voice has to be heard by everybody. And we really appreciate their stake and their participation in such dialogue activities. So you have 20 minutes, and I'm sure you will use your time efficiently. Sure.
Thank you, Dr. Kasahu. Let me introduce myself first. So my name is Yared Abera. I am a global youth climate leader from Ethiopia. And also I am a member of Yongo, which is a youth constituency affiliated with UNFCCC. And also I am one of youth representative representing Ethiopia in COP meetings and also member of the delegation. So today, my topic will be meaningful youth engagement on environment and climate change. Before that, I would like to express that I'm very happy today, especially for usually in previous times, mostly our understanding is mainly on youth participation. So only just inviting young people and just giving just a chair and just to listen. But this time, I'm very happy that you invited me to present and also to give my observation and also to give an input for the global as well as for the national consultation leading up to Stockholm 50+. So with regard to that, I would like to thank Environmental Protection Authority and also the organizers, as well as the government of Sweden. This kind of consultation is also happening at the global level. So last month, end of last month, also my colleagues or from the global community also participated in New York pre-COP consultation. So, and also I would like to thank UNDP for facilitating this and also making sure young people be presented and also be presented meaningfully and engaged in this consultation. So with this, I would like to start why why I'm here. So basically, Sweden is hosting a Stockholm 50+ conference in commemoration of the 15 years anniversary of UNEP and also the discussions on environment. So one of their priorities is just to make sure that there should be a meaningful use engagement. So with that sense, the future generation is very much interested, and also our perspective needs to be put it in the documents, in the decision-making processes. So with that sense, the Sweden government engage at the global level as well as at the national level to engage use as a co-leadership in line in the spirit of for future generation. So basically, I'm going to discuss the overview of use agency as an actor of environment and climate change agendas, so mainly on the national level, and also we will assess the current status and also assess the opportunity and challenge posed for meaningful use engagements in the national level. Then I'm going to suggest or forward practical recommendation to be applied for Stockholm 50+ and beyond. So again, I would like to define or make sure or to the participant to internalize why young people should have to be engaged meaningfully. So mainly when it comes to Ethiopia, 45% of Ethiopian population is under the age of 50, and also 71% is under the age of 30. So which means we are the majority of the population, and also the demography speaks about youth. And also having these kinds of demography, and as a country, we need to develop this great community, in order to make sure the aspiration of the development as a country. So investing in Ethiopian youth is building a strong development that the country should expect in the future. So apart from that, we are a future generation, so we can't be left behind when we speak about future issue of future, especially as the climate change, environmental issues is impacted. It's not a long-term impact. It's not a short-term impact. So it's a long-term impact. So it's our future. So we need to be engaged in this kinds of discussion, consultation, even also on the practical aspects. So of course, when it comes to Ethiopia as well, most of our economies depends on agriculture. Most of the youth are being, working on agriculture sector. So agriculture is one of the area which is being affected. So especially the youth engagement, when we speak about youth engagement, especially of course at the local level as well as at the global level, of course it starts way back. However, following the Paris Agreement, especially the Article 12 recognizes the public participation, education, training, awareness. This really gives a platform for young people to be engaged even under that framework or under the Paris Agreement. So following that, the global youth movement started, and young people are really making their voices and being recognized at the global as well as local level. So assessing the Ethiopian youth agencies or Ethiopian youth engagement really speaks more on awareness creation on environment, climate change among the youth. So these are the status. It's mainly we are working on awareness creation and also in different works or in silos, young people, trying to learn about climate change, try to learn about environmental protection and other issues. Saying the other good existing practice that we have is also the environmental clubs at school level. So especially in primary and secondary level, these are one of a legendary environmental protection platform for young people for children's to be engaged. So this is one of the good practice I can say also, and also needs to be supported or appreciated just to keep the progress. So the other thing is also youth participation. So far, we have been participating and, just invited to events and just listen, learn, maybe participate in some training. So these are one of the existing practice that we have. Another thing is training, which is mainly speak with capacity building and also awareness. So we are being participating in different trainings. Then the other things that we are doing or we have been engaging is that we prepare a use position, then we present that use position to the national entities like Environmental Protection Authority, and also even at the global level to UNFCCC, and also when Conference of Parties came, we present that to COP presidencies. So these are the things that we have been engaging so far. So I'm mentioning this, because this consultation needs will be, an input for the global discussion. So we need to identify what are our existing practices, then also what are the potential, and also later I'll discuss some of the challenges, then put a recommendation. So potential works to be capitalized is that use voluntarism on green legacy is one of an initiative which needs to be potentially worked out more. And also, as you know, majority of the young people are the one who prepare the seedlings and also the places for plantation. Even also during the plantation season, also young people are the one contributing to that one. However, these kinds of things haven't been quantified or codified in some number or in some researches. But if we can do that one, that can be potential work and also potential recognition for young people, and also be a good example for the global community, how young people are contributing and also trying to save their futures. Another thing is another potential work to be capitalized is including use in the national delegation at COP. So this is one of a good practice that we established with Environmental Protection Authority. So I am one of youth representative and also being engaged in the climate negotiations. So these kinds of things is the way that we capitalize or build a capacity for young people. So for example, just to give you my real experiences, I started as a youth delegate in COP23. Then following the several COPs, I empower myself, and now I become one of a climate negotiator for the country. So this kinds of thing is the real capacity building that we need to capitalize. So we need more young people to be engaged in the national delegation or in this kinds of event, then empower their capacity, then that can be a good example even at the global level. So the other potential work we should capitalize is engagement of youth during consultation and in updating NDC. So during last year, during the updating of the NDC, we were part of the NDC, the consultation. So, and also the same like today is this kinds of consultation needs to be capitalized and work hard, work more to make it more meaningful, our engagement. So another thing is young people by themselves is also, organizing themselves as an organization, because, we don't have a capacity, to manage previously, to manage how to run an organization or how to operate. These kinds of things have been a challenge previously. Now, with the current landscape in the country, we are trying to organize ourselves and, working more toward the environment and climate. So as you can see, the training the young people are giving, during in the university. If you see that YMCC is where I started my engagement as a university student, and try develop my experiences. So this kinds of platform needs to be, supported and worked out. So this also, while we are empowering our peer-to-peer capacity building, And also that's where I participated in COP26 event. And also that's where the practical action we are doing, you know, cleaning our environment, especially our university. So I have been presenting some of the good practices. Now let me just tell some of the challenges that we are having. So well, one of the major challenge we have is, you know, we lack institutionalization. So of course, young people being participated, however, that participation needs to be more institutionalized and also needs to be, you know, quantified, codified in more meaningful ways. The other challenge that we have is insufficient funding for youth engagement. So mostly our engagement is on voluntary basis. However, this kinds of voluntary works, you know, it's going to be difficult to sustain. So that needs to be that was one of our challenge. So the other thing is there's no meaningful youth mainstreaming. So when I'm saying this, is it's not only on the environment or in the climate aspects, but overall in the country. When we talk about gender, you know, the gender mainstreaming is, you know, widely incorporated in most of institutions, most of platforms, organizations. However, when it comes to the youth mainstreaming in each project, each activity needs to be included, and also it needs to be mainstreamed. So that's one of the challenge we need to have. We are having. So there's another one is also there are some organizations, youth organization, but you know there's it's unsatisfactory performance of organization working on youth. That's also another challenge. The other thing is lack of youth engagement strategy at the national level on environment and climate change. So well, of course, we have a youth policy at the national level. However, when it comes to environment, we need to have a youth engagement strategy, especially on environment and also climate change. So these are the challenges that, because, you know, we don't have any direction how we can engage ourselves. So so I try to, since, you know, we're giving this as an input for the global consultation, so I try to put the problems as systemic problem and operational problem. So one is the lack of consultative bottom-up process to understand the need for young people. The second one is most youth organization engaged voluntarily. So that because of, you know, lack of dedicated finance. And also there's also from the youth aspect, also there's a less understanding about policy process among young people. And also youth, I mean, left behind locally as well as globally. These are more systemic problems that I observed. So on operational aspect, there are, you know, few resourceful organizations able to engage young people. However, that's more low level of grassroots engagements. And also our work is more in ad hoc engagements, which lacks, I mean, which leads to a low level of long-term sustainability and impact. The other thing is also solution for meaningful youth engagement is we don't have a system-wide buy-in. So the system should have to buy our thoughts, our suggestions. These kinds of things need to be incorporated. So I put it like that. And finally, so I'm trying observing this challenge, then I also put the solutions more in holistic recommendation as well as more functional solutions. So holistically, we need to engage young people very strategically, and also early partnership with young people is very critical. So the other thing is also is engagement of mandated youth constituency or organization or network at the national and also sub-national level should have to be be there. I mean, which means, you know, for example, just some youth council, some youth advisory group needs to be set up in order to, you know, sustain the work. And also universal engagement of youth, that still needs to be worked out, so globally, and also make the youth as a change agent. Then functionally, I observed that there should have to be a dedicated support for the youth, and also there should be a capacity building programs for young people. and also a series of funded consultation and engagement. When we really, so for example, this I can observe that, you know, the Stockholm 50 plus is one of a good consultation type that I observed so far at the local, even in the national level. So, for example, 58 countries are now doing the same consultation at the national level. This can be an input for the global. So this kinds of, and also it should have to be a serious, it's not a one-time consultation or one-time issue. The other thing is also, we need to have a support for participation at the local and global engagement and event. So, because I say this one because I was facing challenge while I'm trying to participate in COPs. You know, I don't have funding, these kinds of things. However, you know, that's the real experience. That's the practical issue that I can learn about the global decision-making process. So, supports for participation is also very critical. And finally, still we need to have more awareness campaign. Still, young people understand the environment, or maybe I can say climate change as a weather, but climate change and weather are totally a different thing. So this kinds of awareness needs to be capitalized. So just to finalize my presentation, one of the objective or one of the plan the Stockholm 50 plus is trying to do is, you know, to promote structure of meaningful use participation, and based on input from use, demonstrate how young people can be involved in and affect discussion about their future. So I can say for today, we practically implement these things or promote structure of meaningful use engagement. Because as a young person, you know, I put my contribution in the national consultation like this. And also this definitely going to be reached to the higher level, to the decision-making people, then I can say my voice is being heard. So with this, I would like to thank you, and finish my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yared, for your presentation and also involvement in the natural governance system of the country. We appreciate that. You have given us an insight of the challenge that young people are facing in environmental governance, and also you came up with some really good and actionable recommendations. So everybody has taken note of those recommendations. So once again, I'd like to thank all the presenters, the 4 presenters that really took time to prepare for this meeting, and also to give thoughtful recommendations on how we can move forward as a nation to a sustainable future. The first presenter was Mr. Mansour about policy and legal frameworks for multilateral environmental agreements. And the second was Dr. Adefrus. He talked about landscape restoration and also livelihood improvement to build resilient communities in the era of climate change. And the third was Dr. Melissa Mario. He talked about biodiversity conservation and also access and benefit sharing. And the fourth one is, as you have heard, was Yared. He talked about meaningful engagement of young people in environmental governance in Ethiopia. So we really appreciate all of you. Can we give them a round of applause for all these speakers? Thank you. So there is one agenda left, but we're not going to talk about it now. So we'll come back to it after lunch. So a couple of housekeeping announcements. Lunch, I'm sure you have all received your coupons for the lunch. So lunch will be served on the 3rd floor. So we can, when we go out, we'll just go straight to the 3rd floor and have our lunch. We'll then come back to this meeting room at 2 p.m. So take the time or your lunch time to speak to some of the speakers. If you have questions, you can have a one-on-one chat or maybe network. So you can take that time to discuss your questions. Or again, after 2 p.m., we'll have a breakout session where we will cover a number of questions that was raised by or put forth by our presenters. So having said this, I'd like to thank you all for your attention, for your active participation in this dialogue activity. I'd like to say again, enjoy your lunch, and we'll meet here at 2 p.m. Thank you so much.